Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. I think we're gonna maybe have everyone sit down and get started on time because we have a packed agenda today. Um, so thank you, everyone, for joining us today as we celebrate Research Week, both within our organization and the city of Brampton. Hope you had the opportunity to attend some of our excellent presentations and events throughout the week and as well as tomorrow. Today's panel discussion is about innovation and technology and how it's helping advance health research. So I'm excited to be here today moderating today's panel discussion. My name is Hina Marsonia. I'm a clinical pharmacist at the Complex Medicine Clinic at the Peel site. My journey with research started by mentoring pharmacy residents with their residency projects, and most recently expanded to exploring technology-driven solutions for managing patients with multiple comorbidities. Through multiple collaborations with industry partners, including Boehringer Ingelheim and Atonix, I developed pathways to manage chronic diseases and led a research project looking at Atonix A-Touch Away to remotely manage patients with multiple comorbidities such as heart failure, COPD, and diabetes at home. The results of the study, the project was actually aimed to reduce ED visits and hospitalization and improve the patient experience. And the results showed a 57% reduction, or the 57% of the interventions completed through the platform led to avoidable ED visits. And we also noted improved patient experience, real timely decision supports, communication between patients, caregiver, and healthcare provider was improved. And through the platform, patients felt confidence in their ability to manage their conditions. I guess, with this platform, this research was able to contribute to the expansion of the platform through several regionally through Telehome Central West, the paramedicine program across various hospitals, and as well nationally, and I hear internationally potentially as well. So this is just one example of how, as a clinician, innovation and technology through partnerships can help advance health research. As highlighted on the slide, we are witnessing emerging healthcare technologies designed to assist patients, healthcare professionals, while enhancing patient outcomes and efficiency. Examples include Internet of Medical Things, artificial intelligence, remote care, health trackers, wearables, predictive analytics, nanomedicine, bioprinting, virtual and augmented reality, electronic health records, and interoperability, precision medicine, as well as genomics, just to name a few. These technology and innovations are driving advancement in health research and fostering greater collaboration across healthcare stakeholders. Here's today's agenda on how technology and innovation are advancing health research. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions directly to the panelists or submit them by typing your question through the QR code provided here. So take a minute to scan that code if you can. So we have an excellent panel lined up for you. So let's go ahead and meet them. I'm excited to introduce our first panelist, Parnyan Maj, founder and CEO of Fibra. Parnyan is a distinguished biomedical engineer with a bachelor's in engineering from TMU and a master's degree in engineering from U of T. She's recognized for her contribution to technology, advocacy in women's health, reproductive health, and innovation in wearables and smart textiles. Her commitment to technology, and fostering diversity in the industry is evident. She has received multiple recognitions, including the 2022 Women Tech Award. She was a finalist for the 2024 Women's Empowerment Award. Looking at innovations by Rogers, she received the 2024 MACO Student Innovation Award and was nominated for the 2023 DMZ Women's Award. Next, I'd like to introduce Rochelle Jiang, with whom I had the pleasure of collaborating with on my project. Rochelle is a registered nurse with extensive clinical experience and holds a master's degree in health administration from TMU. She currently serves as a director of clinical operations and client solutions at Atonix Health Systems, a division of Trudell Medical. In this role, she works closely with various stakeholders, both within the community and the hospital, to enhance patient access to care through virtual healthcare solutions. Rochelle's interests include exploring partnership opportunities to advance health research, particularly in the area of remote management. Our final panelist is Fatima Beg. Fatima holds a Bachelor's of Health Science and is a trained medical laboratory technician. With over 16 years of experience in implementing new technologies in the Canadian healthcare, she currently serves as a clinical specialist at Thermo Fisher Scientific. In this role, she contributes to the overall mission of the company in improving patient health through diagnostics, advancing life science research, and addressing analytical challenges, as well as boosting productivity in laboratories. Currently, she works with a team supporting technical sales for the past 8 years at hospitals and universities across Ontario. She's passionate about digital health solutions and is collaborating with a wide variety of stakeholders to drive innovations. Please join me in welcoming our panelists today. So before we start our discussion, I've asked each of our panelists to take a few minutes to briefly introduce their products, technology, and innovation, and share with us how it's being adopted into practice and its impact on the field. We will start off with Parnian and then followed by Fatima and Rochelle. Technical issues.
It's okay. I can even do it without the slides.
That's okay. The slides will come up. You can start talking.
Hi everyone, I'm Parnian. I'm founder and CEO of Fibra Inc. As Neha was saying, I studied biomedical engineering for my undergrad and my master. I did my undergrad at TMU and then I did my master's at U of T. And throughout my studies in biomedical engineering, we learned a lot about wearable devices that tracks your heart health or your brain health. And as a woman myself, I always thought to myself, why do we not have a wearable device that tracks your reproductive health? And why do I have to go through very complicated, invasive procedures? And even before that, wait for weeks to get the appointment for those invasive procedures and wait for weeks afterwards to get the results, to just have the minimum data on my reproductive health. And again, that was actually the very first to spark in me in terms of wanting to solve this problem of reproductive health and data when it comes to women's reproductive health. And so everything came together for me after I was done with my master's, and I started Fibra a couple of months after I was done with my master's. It's been 3 years for us, and one of the reasons that I wanted to do something in the field of women's health was because of this article that I came across in my undergrad, actually. And interestingly and sadly enough, before 1993, which is fairly recent, women were not included as much in clinical trials. And with that being said, we are losing a lot of data on women's reproductive health. And even today, when we are, and I'm going to expand on that a little bit more later, but in our everyday research that we're doing, we don't have a comprehensive data set on women's reproductive health and even women's menstrual cycle and even biomarkers related to women's menstrual cycle. And we are living in the 21st century, and that's just very, very unfortunate. When I came across this article, it was then that I knew that I definitely wanted to do something in the field of women's reproductive health. Next slide, please. And this is why that I started Fibra. At Fibra, we are making a patent-pending smart underwear paired with an app. We have proprietary textile-based sensors inside it, which monitors biophysical and biochemical parameters such as pH in vaginal discharge, volume change of vaginal discharge, skin temperature, heart rate, and other biomarkers. And we use that data to provide women with accurate reproductive health data. Today's focus of the product is fertility and helping women and couples get pregnant faster. But the next phase with the sensors that we even have in the product today is pregnancy detection as fast as possible, pregnancy monitoring, STD detection, bacterial vaginosis detection, UTI detection, and menopause and perimenopause. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about the sensors. As you can see, we've developed yarn-based temperature sensor, pH sensor, and volume sensor. I'm actually wearing the underwear right now and, for the smart underwear, and it's getting data. It's providing insights on my phone. It's very non-invasive. We are not in the market yet, but we are actually running multiple rounds of pilot studies in-house. We are based in St. Michael's Hospital, so that has given us a lot of opportunity in terms of running pilot studies with physicians. Next slide, please. And anywhere that I go, I always try to break the taboo on women's reproductive health. And unfortunately, because it's been very underfunded and taboo, it's been very under-researched at the same time that we don't have enough data for the technologies and for the companies that are trying to come up with innovative products even today. And that is and we can solve that problem one step at a time if we just talk about women's health, talk about uterus, talk about ovarian system just out loud. Next slide. We have a team of 10. We have different engineers, different scientists on the team with decades of experience in material science, in advanced manufacturing, and we are surrounded by amazing advisors. Next slide. We've been very fortunate with government funding and non-dilutive support from Government of Ontario and Government of Canada, as well as our VCs and investors. We just closed our oversubscribed round of 1.25 million, and we have a lot of work to do. Next slide. That was a little bit about Fibra. I'm going to talk more about what we're doing and the challenges of women's health in a second, but feel free to scan the QR code and join our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that excellent review. Looking forward to the panel discussion. Okay. Okay, Fatima.
Well, thank you so much for having me here amongst amazing research being done. This is really where my passion lies in health applications. And that's why I joined Thermo Fisher Scientific, because we have a mission to enable our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer. So we really live by those words. Sorry, you can just go back. Just to let you know the scope of Thermo Fisher, it's $40 billion in revenue. There's over 7,000 scientists across the organization that are employed in order to push the R&D forward. And we spend $1.3 billion in R&D already. And that number is actually constantly growing through acquisitions. And there's a countless number of employees to help you. Angelica is here today, which supports William Osler, but we have a lot of other labels under the name. So it's hard to navigate sometimes that, that scale of an organization and support that you can get. And that's why people like myself as a clinical specialist, I fall under the scientists and fall under working with some of the sales in order to guide people to solutions that are actually tangible. We can actually implement them and they can have impact to our community's health. So we have many different products that fall into different ranges. And I think the main thing here is to show that that product list continues to grow. We have a system set up that allows researchers to acquire equipment that might not even fall under this 1.7 million products. There's still a technology out there that's hard to access. So we have the entire system in place so that you can even access products that are outside of this 1.7 million to make it easily accessible for Canadian researchers to bring in, whether it's customs, whether it's electrical or hydro checks, things like that, that hold up technology, hold up the science, the back end about it. And acquiring those things really becomes a challenge once you're in it. And you don't want those types of hurdles. You already have enough when you're starting off these researchers. This is just an idea of where we are in terms of supporting science. We're in healthcare, we're in life sciences, applied markets, lab equipment, pharma. So really the breadth of the portfolio can touch a lot of different aspects of the work that we do. Just to mention, Thermo Fisher was proudly a part of William Osler being the first hospital in Canada to offer liquid biopsies. And that's an amazing achievement for William Osler. And the science behind it, although I wasn't a part of that project, it was great to hear that Thermo Fisher supported it. And so essentially what that means in terms of impact, currently the process of diagnosing someone with cancer or treating them with cancer, the prognosis behind it requires biopsies, and that can take up to 14 days. That was reduced to a point of care testing that could take one day even, through a non-invasive, like minimally invasive. I shouldn't say non-invasive. I should say minimally invasive, through a blood test as opposed to a biopsy, looking for fragments of specific DNA sequence or RNA sequence that were shed into the bloodstream. And through that technology, that means real impact to patients with cancer that are waiting for diagnosis or prognosis. And that was done under Dr. Brandon Sheffield and his team of scientists. And it's something that only this hospital offers within Canada right now. And I'm hoping to hear about more soon. We also have goals for green initiatives, and this is something that is in full effect and is constantly being worked on by the organization to join the movement towards a net zero standard. So the goal right now is to reduce our emissions by 50% by 2030, and then to try to get to net zero by 2052 or 50 about. But this means that we have a way for organizations and researchers to recognize that within our platforms as well. Through our online ordering system, you can see the green leaf on certain products and work with vendors and promote those vendors that are also doing their part in trying to achieve these net zero emission goals. So if this is part of your research, your organization goals, know that it's part of ours, and we can help guide you towards more sustainable options of research as well. And in terms of support, as mentioned earlier, amazing support in the industry with over 850 products in procurement support professionals. So what that means is you don't need to be the expert in everything. There are experts that we can reach out to and access to help you acquire the information you need to figure out, is this solution the right fit for me? And the programs that we have with the suppliers, we have great relationships. So for example, we have a new lab startup program. So if you're thinking about starting up a new lab, Thermo Fisher can help you make that funding that you work so hard to acquire go a lot further along the way through our relationships that we've built. And then in terms of, platforms and easeability of ordering, those things have all been established, and we're constantly revisiting on how we can make things easier. We've achieved same-day delivery for our clients within Toronto. We have our own trucks. You might have seen them, Thermo Fisher trucks. And so it's a part of this larger organization that's here to help support you, but not feel so large when you're communicating with us.
Thank you, Fatima, for that excellent brief overview of Thermo Fisher. Rochelle?
Thanks. Can you hear me okay? I'm Rochelle Duong, and I'm the Director of Clinical Operations and Client Solutions at Atonix. I do have a clinical background, so I am a registered nurse by background. So thank you for that wonderful introduction, Hina. So I just have one slide because I hope to be able to get as much information to you through your questions, but I'll try to cover as much as I can here to stimulate some really great conversation. So Atonics is a company that offers remote patient management. And what that does really is we offer a platform, a solution called A Touch Away, and it allows patients to be discharged from hospitals a lot sooner and convalesce in their most comfortable place, which is their home. But still allows patients to have safe access to their clinicians and clinicians to feel confident that they can still monitor their patients within the comfort of their home. So there's that two-way communication. There are vital signs that are monitored. They're point-in-time vital signs, and also a clinical protocol, or what we call a clinical pathway or algorithm that a clinician can put together and allow the patient to have daily, twice a day, once a week access to be able to monitor and manage some of their chronic conditions. These pathways are 100% customizable. We've learned, being a clinician myself, that we want to practice best practice evidence-based care, but we always insert our own little technique, our own little je ne sais quoi, as you say, still research-based, but every clinician has their own special way of doing the care, offering the care for that particular patient population in the condition that they're wanting to monitor. And so we offer that flexibility. We're 100% flexible. We also offer kits. So we want to make sure that patients have access. So we don't rely on whether they have access to certain wearables or to tablets or to smartphones. If it's a program that a clinician wants to offer where you want to make it 100% accessible, we do offer a full kit solution, and that is available, and you can track, and everything's Bluetooth monitored right to the tablet. So all the patient would have to do is put on the device, press start, and the data flows directly from the device to the platform. And on the other end, the clinician can get all of their readings, have all of the questions that they've laid out for that particular day for that patient, so that they can assess the patient and make confident care plan changes, and also ensure that there's that interaction. You can do secure messaging, secure conference calling, and you can include, the great thing about this is you can include the full circle of care for that patient, and that includes their family members. So clinicians can offer access to caregivers, family members, and set permissions of what can and can't be seen privacy-wise. And also patients will have a one-stop shop to connect with their clinicians, with their physicians, with their pharmacists, with their loved ones, and everyone will have access to the same information without wondering what's happening or wondering whether mom spoke to Dr. Jones. It's all available in one solution. What this has done for our clinician customers is it has expedited discharge from hospital. It has also lowered readmission rates. And you can see some stats here. And you heard from Hina earlier today. We've also significantly impacted ED visits, or a diversion from EDs. And the beauty about this is we also pool satisfaction comments from our patients. And you can see here one stat that 90% are reporting a higher sense of security. And just many folks just enjoy receiving their care at home, but still feel the confidence and the safety that they can connect with their clinician at any time. Each program with each hospital is run very differently. Some will do 12-hour programs, some will do 24-hour programs, and we're flexible enough to be able to offer that service to support our clinicians. We are nothing without our clinical partners. We are a solution that is essentially empty. We need our clinicians to inform the solution, and that's what we're committed to. And that's why we do the research with our clinical partners, is we learn from our clinicians. And because tech is moving so quickly, we have a slew of engineers and developers that take in all of this information and make adjustments to our solution. So we can honestly say that our solution is made by our clinicians, for our clinicians, to be able to provide safe and effective care to patients in their home. We are all across Canada, all across the US and in the UK, but for this discussion, I'll focus primarily in Ontario, because that's where we are. So in Ontario, we have over 85% of the market share in terms of home and community care. We work with Ontario health teams. We work with many hospital systems as well, but as well as community paramedicine programs and some physician clinics. But our largest base of business is with home and community care in Ontario, as I'm sticking to Ontario, and also with hospital systems. And our focus is primarily on chronic conditions, but we do work with clinicians that want to offer remote monitoring to patients post-surgery. So that is also something that we focus in on, but our primary focus right now is chronic care. And so that will include diabetes, COPD, heart failure, falls prevention, geriatric rehab, just to name a few customized pathways that we have. Again, we work with our clinicians. So each one of their instances of a pathway, a COPD pathway in one institution or in one community provider will look different, but you can rest assured that it is based on evidence and our clinicians have access to the data that they're tracking. So every data point that is collected through our clinical pathways is accessible to the clinician so that he or she can make changes to their protocols based on data on the population that they're serving today. So I think
Well,
that's
thank
it.
you for this excellent summary. So I think we're going to get started with the discussion. If the audience has any questions, please let us know, raise your hand and we'll get perfect. I'll get.
How soon do you think it be like a mainstream? More than one hospital, which we are. How soon is gonna be available like more hospitals than only Brampton Hospital, and what conditions are to get this biopsy?
So I can speak from experience of introducing new technologies within healthcare and what I've seen in the Canadian market specifically. I think a lot of vendors enter the Canadian market thinking that we are another state, another part of the US, and we will function and adopt technology the same way. But we are quite different when it comes to actually bringing technology within healthcare because we are publicly funded. So the decisions that are made in a very different way. And the pain points that are highlighted when these decisions are made are really the driving force. And currently I can say, prior to COVID, we had a backlog when it came to the surgeries, and the demand on pathology was ever increasing. So when you look at Brampton, when they made the decision to adopt this technology here, they saw the amount of cancer doubling within a very short period of time, but before 2040 even. So that really put pressure on the healthcare system that's supposed to support these people. When the cancer cases are supposed to rise this high, how are we going to support them? We currently have shortages of humans, of people, of pathologists, of MLTs. And, you know, introduce COVID, you have a backlog. You had no surgeries happening for a very long time. And everything was very limited. So you want to get patients this access to care. So it's going to be twofold. We need to have a full investment in the people element as well. We need to look at our healthcare system beyond just the system and see how our educational institutions are helping bring in those bodies and bring in that care. And we need to adopt new technologies. So this pressure is constantly increasing, but it is publicly funded. So they do look at all of these issues before they go into making these changes and making these investments in technology. Sometimes it feels a little bit slow. It really does, but it's a long process because it just has to put that pressure has to be recognized in the research that's being done, in the way that we're following community health. And so I can tell you the pressure is there with other hospitals, the same as what the Brampton community is feeling. It's not alone. So I do hope that we do see it at other hospitals, but it's great to know that we're at a site that's possibly going to be the leader in this space and help other hospitals achieve this, getting this technology in their lab.
So good morning here. I'm Tiziana Rivera. I'm the Executive Vice President for Research at William Osler. And I want to welcome our online guests as well who are remoting in and watching the presentation. Have a comment and then a question. My comment is it's inspiring. Diversity matters and women's issues matter, and to have you here representing that and the companies that you work with, it's inspiring. We have a long way to go from a women's health perspective and from representation of really bright, articulate women in these positions. So congratulations to all three of you. My question really is a reflection and asking for your comments on, that we recently launched our research institute. On Monday, we had our official launch. What's your reflections to us as we think about all these amazing things that are happening, some in development, some already established, some leading edge, world renowned? What are your reflections for us that we can take on as a new institute to be open and receptive? And what are the things that we have to do to be able to be on that leading edge from a research perspective?
Thank you for the comment and feedback. I appreciate it. So from our perspective, every day we're doing rounds and rounds of pilot studies. We are located in St. Marcus Hospital. We have connections to the William Osler Health System. We've been a part of Brampton Venture Zone, but yet there is this gap in terms of accessing and getting access to physicians who are willing to put the time, who are willing to put the effort. And even though that we are also willing to put the effort on our side, we're willing to assign team members to run the clinical trials. I don't want to call it clinical trials because we're not a medical device at this time, but clinical studies. And that gap, that limited resources from clinicians and research institutions perspective is very disadvantageous when it comes to running studies, when it comes to actually conducting the studies with them. We have a long list of potential researches that we can do, not just for women's health, but also in other fields as well. For example, studying the potential relationship between PCOS and diabetes, because they have direct correlation. And how are the changes of pH in vaginal discharge if the person has diabetes or if the person has other conditions. And but all of these are on pause because because there is not enough resources on the clinician side. And also we're a startup as well. So our resources are very limited as well, both from the financial perspective and also from the human resource perspective. So I think creating that creating that bridge to solve that gap in terms of connections and resources, that will be very helpful.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add to that, but also I wanted to say thank you very much for those kind words and for the invitation to be able to speak at the panel and to, share in this amazing week with the William Osler team. My recommendation would be a little bit more, I don't want to say stale, but can prevent the acceleration of research if not taken into account. And we've seen this is we often work with principal investigators are really excited to run their study. They've got their protocol in place. They know exactly how they want to run it. They've gone through their REB reviews and protocols. And what stalls is the legal aspects of things when you come to contracting, data sharing agreements, and that aspect, which I think you guys are doing an amazing job with highlighting that awareness and the importance of research, and to ensure that the peripheral team, like your legal team, contracting team, IT team, data sharing team, because there is going to be that point where we're sharing data, and you might be sharing that data between, your hospital and or your location and the vendor that you're going to be doing research with. So sorry about that. So it's helpful because you've got a clinician who has a timeline of when he or she wants to run the study, but might be backlogged by a 3 to 6 month delay. And so I think if there's anything that can be done upfront to increase that awareness of the importance of research and have everything in place so that your principal investigator can run through their study would be definitely helpful.
Thank you for that. I think we definitely touched upon the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration. And, you know, as we look at health research, it really takes a village. It takes technology, healthcare, academia to really bring it together to sort of, you know, advance this health research and fostering advancement in you know, going above and beyond. So I think the panelists kind of highlighted all of the successful or sort of partnerships. And we've also sort of talked about what steps organizations can take to support health research. But is there anything else you would want to add?
I guess from the vendor perspective, I think having conversations and having just like this platform or other platforms and giving us the ability to engage and talk about the research being done. I've been to a few places and few institutions, this happens quite frequently, where research ends up becoming very siloed. And there could be overlap between groups that are in the same building, and they'll never know about it until it makes a splash somewhere. And so it's really interesting when I have engaging conversations. And sometimes when we're talking about the science and we have platforms and the ability to talk about the science that brings us all together in the same room, there's a chance for further collaboration between these groups, and having just the ability to discuss and having space to discuss that, I think is fantastic.
So as we delve into the practicalities, I think most of you have really touched upon that of integrating innovation and technology in health research. I'd like to start by understanding some of the real world challenges that you face. Rochelle, let's start with you. What was one of the biggest challenge or barriers that you faced when implementing technology or innovation, or even, you know, sort of engaging in health research?
I think the biggest challenge, I'm going to speak in general, that we've seen challenge in technology, although we are overcoming it, is that it's a different way of doing things in healthcare, and that change management can be daunting and it can be scary for clinicians as well as for patients. And so what we've learned is to ensure that we do things that encourage use of technology or introduction of various aspects of technology that are different than what folks are used to. So some of the things that I can say we learned was a challenge is, for example, clinicians have a lot on their plate, whether it's with research or caring for that patient, that often they don't have the opportunity to take that extra step and teach the patient about additional technologies. And we've heard that from our clinical partners. And so what we've done is we've crafted an entire team now that takes on all the patient education with in relation to the tech component of A Touch Away, and that will include even things as simple as turning on the tablet that they receive, speaking to them on how to interact, how to touch or press the screen, how to place a blood pressure cuff on. So we've learned from doing and from listening to our clinicians that just if we step back, the challenge in technology and different ways of doing things has been the biggest barrier. So we try to address that first. From a clinician side, we've also learned that, you know, taking the time to even learn certain ways of doing things using tech can be challenging simply because of time. So because of that, we've implemented learning management systems that are asynchronous, can be done very quickly, small sound bites, 3 to 5 minutes, so that a clinician can learn how to use the tech immediately while he or she is doing something else. And so we've tried to take that load off of both patient and clinician to have to worry or learn about tech, so that it really just becomes a part of what they do naturally, and then they don't have to worry about it. So I think that's the biggest barrier and challenge we've learned, and then try to address it.
Parnian, any thoughts from your perspective?
For us as a women's health company, as a startup who's working on a hardware product, we've had many barriers, both from the research perspective and also fundraising and investor perspective. From the investor, I'm going to talk about investor perspective first, and then I'll talk about the research after that. But from the investor perspective, when we were doing the last fundraising round, I oftentimes came across male investors who they didn't have enough understanding about women's reproductive health. And sadly enough, after the conversations, they've been trying to essentially prove me wrong that even small things like ovulation, they were insisting that ovulation happens exactly 14 days after the first day of period. And I had to spend many hours and email chains and everything to try to very politely explain to them that it's supposed to be the case, but it's not always the case. There are many environmental factors that affect that, including even drinking alcohol, even vacation, even being under stress can affect that. And even if you have PCOS, if you have endometriosis, I have PCOS, and my cycles are never exactly the same. And that layer of education and that layer of actually the lack of education in some of the male investors was really challenging at first, because it was preventing us to be able to raise the funding. And today we are very fortunate to have amazing male investors on our board to be able to see the pain and that we're trying to solve, and to be able to see the vision that we have for the company. But the lack of education when it comes to women's reproductive health, and even very small things like ovulation cycles and things like that can affect that, was one of the biggest barriers for us. And when it comes to the research, one of the barriers that we had, and I talked about it a little bit, but it's the lack of data. And we are talking about small data and very not complicated data, but small data in terms of, for example, biochemical concentration of macromolecules in women vaginal discharge. And we couldn't find any data on that. When we developed the sensors first, we had to come up with synthetic vaginal discharge to be able to test the sensors that we've made. And we spent months and months trying to find what are the chemical compositions of women's vaginal discharge. We weren't able to find any. We were able to find very high level molecule concentrations. For example, we're able to know that there is sodium in vaginal discharge. There are other molecules, but there was no studies being done on concentration of these elements. And these are very important when we are trying to make that synthetic vaginal discharge to be able to test the sensors with. And we had to oftentimes rely on literatures from 1970s. And the frustrating part of that is that there are literatures from 2023 on cows and vaginal discharge concentration of cows, but we don't have enough data on women's vaginal discharge. So lack of data was another barrier that we faced, and it is still the barrier that we're facing today, but data and also the lack of education.
Yeah, absolutely. Data is very important. That's how you get funding and, keep continuing with quality improvements. Fatima.
So this is an interesting one because my experience, I have to say, comes mainly from pathology and histology labs across Ontario mainly. And I would say, even though I work for Thermo Fisher, I always feel a little bit confused because I feel like I'm on both sides. Where, the hospitals, it's all publicly funded. So I feel like I'm a part of that decision too, whenever new technology comes in. And sometimes we're not enabling our labs with new technology. The funding process of how we make the decisions to bring about new equipment into facilities, I think needs to be revisited and needs to be looked at so that we're not getting things, when it's a Band-Aid fix. There is a validation process that causes our organizations to sometimes go towards something that we've already had. And quite often I see really hard to achieve funding being put to old technology. although we do offer it, we will always support it. It would be nice to see movement towards new technology and adoption of new technology. And I think that's only going to be possible if we revisit on how the money is being sent, and so that we're not doing Band-Aid fixes and we're looking at things beforehand, and we're able to distribute those in order to add efficiencies into the clinical space.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we've covered the funding part of the next question I had for the panelists. Obviously, funding is a real sort of a challenge, whether it's a company or, health research and innovation. So I think collaboration is important. My next question, it has to do with data utilization. I know data is foundational to health research. So starting with Fatima, how do you leverage data collected from your respective technology and innovation to enhance patient outcomes?
So we really look at the data and how we're able to provide real-time information to our customers with the product. If there's any issues or if there's delays in getting the product, if there's back order issues. So we are constantly working on that and introducing new technologies into the warehousing and able to get our customers the information that they need or the support that they need or the products that they need. So the data is something that we do follow. And we do look at also if there's an upswing in requests in something that we're not currently offering or the way that we're offering some of our products. I know it's a little bit of a broad answer there, but it is something that drives, I think, every organization, and the way that we see patterns within organizations, and we like to look at them in different segments, including clinical and research, to understand if there is something that we can get ahead of, so that to not cause delays in the work that's being done.
I think, Parnian, you kind of addressed that, and Rochelle. So I'm going to ask the next question to you. Scalability is a huge impact. So how do you scale your innovation and technology above and beyond to sort of get that health research data that you're wanting and needing?
Yeah. So in terms of scalability, well, today, because of that lack of data, all of the data that we're collecting today is just trying to is just trying to fill the prior gap that was there in terms of even the biochemical parameters in women's that changes throughout cycles with women. Because we don't have that data already available to us, and it's not very comprehensive. Right now, we are through all of our pilot studies, we are very focused on filling that gap and filling the gap and also collecting that data. For example, we don't have any comprehensive database of changes of pH and vaginal discharge based on where women are within their menstrual cycle. pH or vaginal discharge changes if they're in their ovulation window or before ovulation or after ovulation, but we don't have comprehensive data regarding that. And that lack of data is again slowing us down in terms of making our actually developing our machine learning model. So right now we're just going back and we're trying to fill that gap. But actually until now, we've collected 250,000 data points with our product. And the next phase of the product is to, again, use each of those data points and essentially get a little bit more detailed in terms of correlation between, again, pH of vaginal discharge and diabetes, or PCOS and diabetes, or the changes that women face in terms of volume of vaginal discharge when they are based on the different trimesters that they are at during their pregnancy. So there's a lot of data that can be studied based on our product and the biomarkers that we're collecting, and that's just the tip of the iceberg for us. And then And that is just purely in terms of fertility and pregnancy. But then that again, the next step for us is pregnancy detection as fast as possible with a few of the sensors that we have. And the sooner you know that you're pregnant or not, the sooner you can take the next steps accordingly. And it's very important in some states in the United States, unfortunately, because of the abortion law. And pregnancy detection is the next phase in our scalability pipeline. The phase after that is bacterial vaginosis and monitoring women and girls if they've been exposed to any reproductive health system diseases, STDs, UTIs, with all the biomarkers that we are collecting. And again, it's non-invasive, comfortable, at the comfort of their home. And then the next phase is menopause and perimenopause. And I was actually attending a gala at Women's College Hospital earlier this year. And something that they mentioned, which was very shocking, was that even today, they actually admit a few patients every day in ER, and they are experiencing some symptoms. So they go to the ER and they don't know that these symptoms that they are experiencing is completely normal and it's the result of perimenopause or menopause. And the lack of education when it comes to menopause, the lack of data that women have access to is also definitely the next step in our scalability pipeline.
Thank you for that. We've got just a few minutes and we need to be on time. So if anyone in the audience has a burning question for just maybe a minute or two, otherwise I'm sure the panelists will be happy to take those questions after our presentation. Any questions? No? Okay. So we'd love to hear from you and capture some of your, I had lots of discussion points. You could see that. Your thoughts, please share them using this link that has been provided. We'd love to hear from you to see how technology and innovation and health research is being applied in your practice, or how do you see it applied in your practice?
Do you want to put screen while we're doing it? Sure. Mm-hmm.
Oh. Our thoughts are to capture where your thoughts are and to, bring it back to our research team. And again, everything starts with a conversation. Okay. I love that. The use of Vina phones to message. Equity. Yes, absolutely. As we conduct health research, it's important to have that, frame of work about inclusion of the diverse population that we serve. Seamless integration of workflows. Absolutely. Faxing. I think that's going to come with Epic. Okay, perfect. So a special thank you to our panelists today for your insightful contribution to today's discussion on innovation and technology in advancing health research. We've explored various perspectives from smart wearable textiles to remote management and to advances in the lab analytics, highlighting successes, challenges, and opportunities that lie ahead. A big thank you to our audience for your thoughtful engagements. It is clear that technology is transforming health research, improving patient outcomes, and enhancing care. As we move forward, collaboration, ethical considerations, and scalability will be key to successful progress. I encourage all of us to take some of these insights back to our work and think about how we can collectively leverage technology and innovation to drive meaningful changes within health research as well. As we celebrate Research Week this week, let's continue collaborating to expand the possibilities of what can be achieved in health research. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions for the panelists, I'm sure they're going to stick around and you can ask them. Thank you.